All right, good evening everybody, and welcome back to Walks and Wall Street. Today is Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. It's about 9:12 p.m. and we are reporting live from outside of 432 Park Avenue yet again. Now, we were going to start the stream off downtown in Lower Manhattan, but I didn't have any time. I had to go back to the office and do some paperwork, but we'll try to go down there, and we'll try to make it, our way down there as fast as possible. We'll see. It was a very volatile day in the markets today. The S&P 500 actually closed in the green after almost 4 consecutive days in the red. Now, the S&P closed at 4,274, but intraday we got all the way down to 4,239. So we had a pretty big rally off of the lows. Now, we'll start off by looking at some technical indicators here. Look at the 200-day moving average. The 200-day comes in right at 41.98. Pretty much just call that 4,200. And that seems as if that's the location of the level that the market's going to get some support here. Now, we also have a notable gap in the futures. If you look at the level between 4,400 and 4,375, big gap there. Usually futures gaps always get filled, so we'll keep an eye on that. Bond yields continue to blow out. Let's check on the US 10-year Treasury yield. So the US 10-year is at 4.6. Wow. Now, I think intraday it actually got up a little bit higher than that, maybe 4.641%. And you have T-bills on the short end of the curve really blowing out too. Now, if you think about it, this means that if you're liquid and you have anywhere between $5 to $10 million, if you just continue to reinvest into short-term T-bills, I mean, that's like, a risk-free, almost guaranteed income of $400,000 a year. So things are getting interesting, folks. Things are getting really, really interesting. Let's quickly shift our gears over to commodities real quick. We'll take a look at crude oil, the ticker symbol CL for the crude oil futures contract for light crude oil. I mean, crude has absolutely been going gangbusters, taking off, breaking out again. 2 days ago, we were trading at $90 a barrel. Today, as of recording this live stream, September 27th at 9:15 p.m., we're trading at almost $95 a barrel, which is pretty crazy. 94.82 to be exact. So commodities prices are going up again, and this is not good news for those of us who were banking on the Federal Reserve to switch up their monetary policy from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing again. Now, if you look at the CPI report that we got out last week, well, one of the main components that attributed to much of the rise in CPI was energy. And that is because if you go back to about June, right? June 27th, crude oil was trading at $67 a barrel. And over the last 2 months, we've been going absolutely gangbusters, breaking $90 a barrel yet again. That's a massive, massive move. If you want to talk in percentage basis, what is that? From 65 to like 95, what's that? Like a 40% move? Give or take, I'm not a mathematician, but I mean, that's a monster move in energy prices. So that is going to trickle down throughout the economy, and American consumers are going to be able to see some ridiculous prices at the pump. If anybody here is on Twitter, there's a really good Twitter account that I think you should follow. I forget the name, but the Twitter account posts gas prices from around the United States. And there was this one gas station in particular in California that has now reached $7 a gallon of gas. Crazy times we are living in. I don't know how people are doing it out here. So we'll talk about that. Another thing we have to talk about, a lot of big box retailers. You talk about Target. You talk about Walmart, and many others are now announcing in major cities of store closures. Now, we've actually forecasted this and we've almost predicted this on the stream. This goes all the way back to about a year ago when we were listening to Rite Aid's earnings call, and the CEO of Rite Aid at the time, before they went bankrupt, came on the call and said that they are starting to shutter stores all throughout New York City due to retail theft. Now, I would say one of the main targets that I think is probably one of the most trafficked in New York City happens to be in Harlem. I believe it's on 116th Street. We have some breaking news there. Target officially announces that they will be shuttering their store in Harlem on the 116th Street location due to an overwhelming amount of retail theft. Organized retail theft has been absolutely going insane, not only in New York City, but across the country. We've even talked about Mark Benioff from Salesforce, the CEO of Salesforce, voicing his concerns. Voicing his concerns that San Francisco is taking a little bit of a bad turn, right? And how the crime has been increasing, shoplifting has been increasing, and this is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy here, because as you have retail theft and crime increasing, well, one of the things you also have is stores and local businesses shuttering, which is unfortunate for the law-abiding citizens in the community, because then they have no place to go. They have no, essentially, stores to get goods and services, which is horrible, horrible thing. So we'll talk about that. What is that going to mean for the economy? What is that going to mean for corporate earnings? And which companies could potentially benefit from this massive retail theft crime wave that we have sweeping across the United States? And Rockstar too, and people are losing their jobs, which is horrible. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and close up the laptop here. We will get the stream started. I think we're gonna head to Hell's Kitchen tonight. We haven't been to Hell's Kitchen in a long time, and I think it'd be really great to head over there. So I'm gonna close up the laptop. I'll say hello to everybody in the chat, and we will get the stream started. Thanks everybody for joining. All right. Let's see who we have in the chat tonight. I see Jafet Perez, what's up? Cars and Sports is here. British Gray, good to see you as always. Jay Einstein is here, welcome. Austin City Limits, Noah AB1, Justin S, Alfred Rees, good to see you. Conrad M is here. I see Danielle D, British Gray from Tampa, Florida. Welcome everybody, good to see you. Juan Fernandez from Miami Auto is here, good to see you. Steph UF, our good friend Hawaii is joining us. Let me see if I can adjust the camera. All right, I think that's about as good as we're gonna get. Hey, 21 Jump Street says, hey Tom, FIFA is relocating. Yeah, I saw that. So FIFA's corporate headquarters is going to be relocating to Miami, Florida. Now, it's interesting that they make this move now, probably because Messi has officially signed on to Inter Miami in the Major League Soccer organization, but I think that's really good news for Miami. I'm not sure if anybody saw the New York Post article. Many of you actually sent it to me in my email box, but I think Miami, Florida officially overtook New York as the most expensive place to live. Now, I'm not saying we're proud of that at all, but it just shows the massive transition and shift in not only wealth, but assets and job creation, and just people just wanting to move to Miami in general. It's really bid up the prices of things, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight on the live stream, is because we're going into Q4. And going into Q4, I'm sure many of you who own property, right, or who have just recently bought property, you've probably got your annual escrow adjustment. Anybody in the chat get their annual escrow analysis done? Now, chances are, right, I mean, unless you live in an area that's really bizarre, chances are your payments monthly in your escrow account has probably gone up, right? Now, if you have a fixed rate mortgage, your payment's not going to go up in terms of the principal and the interest, but what's going to go up is one of two things. Number one is your property taxes, right? And if you bought a place anywhere, pretty much anywhere across the United States this year, the adjustment has been higher. Property taxes have been skyrocketing. And number two, insurance. Your insurance costs probably skyrocketed as well. So, you know, to sort of, you know, kind of piggyback off of the idea or the statement that FIFA is now officially moving to Miami, you know, with the job growth, with the population growth, brings you know, higher valuations for real estate. I mean, I've been telling you guys about some of the crazy trades that I've been seeing in some very local and small towns in and around Miami-Dade County, such as North Miami Beach. You know, houses that were on the market, single family homes that are 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, less than 1,000 square feet, are currently selling, even now, for almost $450,000, which is wild, because if you think pre-pandemic, right, pre-coronavirus, those homes were going for $250,000, maybe a little more, 275 to 300. Now they're going for 410, 450, and those are the 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom homes that need work. They need renovation. You got to put a lot of elbow grease into them. So things are crazy. Things are crazy. We are now standing outside of the Tiffany & Co. here. I think they're building, or they're putting in a really nice sidewalk here. I thought there was going to be some design, but it doesn't look like it at all. DC is here, says good evening, what's up? Daryl says retail theft or coordinated crimes, Tom? Yeah, I mean, it seems like it. Target actually put out a statement that said the vast majority of the retail shrinkage, right, or the slippage, comes from just 5% of the criminals, right? So these are organized retail crime groups. It's really wild. Hey, George Hernandez is here. Welcome. Good to see you. Username, good to see you. Let me catch up on some of the chats here. Yeah, Juan Fernandez says even Hialeah has gotten ridiculous. It really has. It really has. And the property insurance, yep. EUG says taxes stayed the same, insurance went up about $200. Yeah, so the thing is, it's going up, right? The point is, things are going up, and you know, people who bought homes over the last 2 years, I mean, I'm not saying everybody, right? But there are some people who buy without doing any proper diligence. So for example, they'll buy and they'll look at, you know, the tax estimate that's on Zillow, but you never want to look at that. That's irrelevant. So if you're ever buying a house or buying a property, you never even want to pay attention to the tax estimates that are on Zillow or Street Easy. It's not applicable to you. It's going to be 9 times out of 10, if the new trade is higher, the new assessment is going to be higher. So you have to take that into consideration. So places like Texas, right? And I know Texas is a big state, big land area. But generally speaking, Texas has very high property taxes. And I believe, right, I don't want to make any assumptions here, but a lot of people who bought in Texas probably weren't like accounting for the big, massive property tax hike when they have their appraisal values go up, so to speak. So, I mean, that could potentially be $300 to $400 extra per month, in your monthly payments. So let's see how that trickles through the economy. Maybe that'll impact the housing market. We'll see. It's definitely something to watch. Now, that's also not good news as it relates to rents. Because if you're a landlord, right, let's say if you own a duplex or a triplex and your property taxes go up, do you think that the landlord, out of the goodness of their heart, is going to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to keep my tenant's rent the exact same, and I'm just going to foot the bill for the property taxes? No, of course not. The property tax bill gets passed on to the renter, gets passed on to the tenant. So this could potentially put some upward pressure on rents now, but we'll see what happens. Assuming that there's no default, I think the only way that valuations are going to come down a little bit is if just renters can't take it anymore and they just decide not to renew their lease and move out. We'll see. We are now approaching 59th Street, Central Park South, facing the Sherry Netherland. It's a beautiful night out here in New York City, and we are standing across the street from the beautiful Plaza Hotel. Amazing. Hey, Abdul is here. Says happy Wednesday. What's up? Usernames, schmoosernames, as if you're living on $2,000 a month and extra expenses $300. That is absolutely horrible. Yeah, particularly for people living on fixed incomes. I definitely agree with you there. This is an awesome shot of the Plaza Hotel with the Steinway Tower in the back. Now, I'm not sure if these folks are lined up for the iPhone 15 or maybe they're just crowded outside of the Apple Store. Hey, Ukrainian Royals says no more rain. Yeah, thank God. Tarina, this is very true about taxes in Texas. Yeah, a couple of my good friends moved to Texas and bought, these massive homes for like $400,000. But their property tax bills are insanity. They're almost like $10,000, sometimes $12,000 to $13,000 property tax bills. So, the tax man is really going to get you no matter what, right? Because, the appeal of some of those states, right, Texas, Florida, is that there's no state income tax, right? But, the trade-off is that, they usually get you on the property taxes. Although I guess you could say the same thing about places like Long Island, New York, and some parts of New Jersey. If you've ever lived on Long Island, New York, or bought a home in Nassau or Suffolk County, a starter home, a starter home in a decent neighborhood, right, where it's not dangerous, and a turnkey home that doesn't need any work is probably going to start at like $750,000, and chances are that home is going to come with a $15,000 to $20,000 a year property tax bill. So things are crazy. Things are expensive. Speaking of expensive, this building right in the distance is 53 West 53rd Street, one of the newest buildings on New York City's Billionaires Row. Trina says, Tom, we live in a suburb north of Dallas. Taxes are insane. We lease and our rent went up $300 this year. Wow. Yeah, that's a big blow. I mean, calculate the percentage change there. So, Jamie Mercedes says Miami. I don't know what that means. So this is the Dior store here. Kathy Lyons, good to see you. Welcome. Someone's talking about it's probably more affordable for seniors to sell their homes and retire on a cruise ship. Well, I think this is why it's important that, when you're planning for retirement, right, and you got to have your money sustain yourself to sort of outlive you, in my view, one of the most important things to make sure that you have is shelter. So if you can buy yourself, a duplex or a triplex, that will allow the tenants to sustain your cost of living, right? So if you work your entire life and you have the house paid off, and then you still rent out, you know, the second floor or the third floor, that will be extra income to supplement you in retirement, right? Because many people, I mean, to your point, are relying solely on Social Security, which we don't even know if that's going to be there. So, hey, using Peoples is how do you negotiate a salary if it is in the middle of the posted range? Well, I mean, just show your value, right? And if you have multiple offers from places, or multiple job offers from places, you could sort of pin that against each other. But it is of my view that I think those days are kind of long gone. I think we're in a critical turning point in the economy where, you know, I think a lot of the employees are in for a rude awakening. And I actually wrote a little bit of an essay on this about a year ago. You know, the time to negotiate and really hammer your company for a higher pay raise was a year ago. It's not now. Now you should just try to put your head down and just try not to lose your job in this environment, right? Particularly quantitative tightening is going to even increase even more from here. So, you know, things are going to break. I think the Fed is going to continue to tighten until the wheels fall off of this thing. So I think for now, if you think it's a fair salary, I would take it. But if you have multiple offers, right, I think it would still be appropriate to use those multiple offers and sort of use that as a negotiating tactic. Use it as leverage. But if you only have one offer on the table and you say it's in the middle of the range, right, for your particular job, I mean, for me, I think in this environment, I'd take it, in my personal opinion. Using people says, but what if it is lower than what you are currently making? Well, then stay with what you're currently making then. I guess I don't get your question. So you're applying for another job and they're lowballing you and they're giving you a lower salary than what you're currently making. I would say if you don't see a clear path to making more money at the next job in 2 to 3 years, then I wouldn't take the job. I would just stay where you are. That's what I would do personally. But because look, you know, markets change, and we talk about being contrarian all the time, right? If you read an article, these are the residences at the Plaza Hotel, by the way. If you read any article in 2021 and 2022, it's that employees were like the prize, right? Employers were fighting tooth and nail just to hire anybody, and it was very, very scarce out there. And that's why people were getting massive pay raises. You know, people were able to work remote and work from home because all of the employees had the leverage. I love these red stairs going up to the residences here. But that's changing, and that's going to change in a big way. And I think a lot of these employees are going to get caught off guard here. You notice this trend already, right? But unfortunately, most people don't pay attention to a business cycle, right? Money is getting expensive. Corporations, generally speaking, have a lot of debt. That means it's going to be more expensive to service that debt. So where do they look to cut costs? They look to cut costs in employees, right? So, you know, you're seeing this massive boom in labor union strikes all around the country right now. I think that is very risky, so to speak, for some of these employees to be doing that right now. I think the time to, you know, make all the money in the heyday to negotiate a higher salary was 2 years ago, right? A year ago. Now, I mean, just look at the economic environment. I think now is the time just to sort of, you know, hunker down, try to keep your job through this tightening cycle, and don't do anything to piss your boss off. That's what I would say. CD says the tech industry is an employer's market right now. Yeah, I mean, well, look at how ironic this is. This is so funny. I read this in the Wall Street Journal. I also have a buddy who's an enterprise account executive here. Zoom. So the company Zoom, I'm sure you've all used it multiple times. Ticker symbol ZM is now requiring their employees to return to the office. Now, how ironic is that, right? Because they sell software to help organizations work remotely. Now, they do this for a reason, right? A lot of corporations will do this for a reason. So instead of just announcing mass layoffs, right, and firing people, which is expensive for a corporation, right? Because if they lay you off, they have to pay you a severance. They got to give you a package, right? I'm sure we've all been there. But if they start to very slowly but surely make life a little bit more difficult and inconvenient for you, it's a simple calculation, right? If I have 200 account executives across the board at my software company, and I look at the financials and I'm like, wow, I need to cut, $2 million worth of costs in order to get us, free cash flow positive. This is just a made up example. What you could do is say, okay, we're fully remote right now. Okay, everybody come back to the office 3 days a week. There's going to be a percentage of your employees that quit and go somewhere else, right? And when they quit and go somewhere else, guess what? The company doesn't have to pay you out. The company doesn't have to pay you the severance. They don't have to give you all the benefits, right? So when you notice this trend, and maybe some of you have noticed it already where you work, and maybe you haven't, right? It just depends. Companies will start to do things specifically to sort of manage you out of the business, right? I'm sure we've all worked in corporate America. I've worked in corporate America. It's called managing you out of the business. They do write-ups, they do performance reviews, they nitpick every little thing. They say, hey, I know we were 100% remote, but guess what? Now everybody needs to be in the office at least 3 days a week, even though some of the management knows that you can't do that and it's not feasible. They do that to sort of push you out of the job. Hey, Austin City Limits, what's up? Good to see you. Lorraine says thinning out the staff without the cost to the employer. Using people says, so basically if a person is making $120,000 and applies to a job with a range in 80 to 50K and then gets an offer for 90K, you shouldn't try to negotiate the salary to 140? Of course. You should just say, hey, I'm making this. You should say, this is what I'm making now. In order for it to be worth it for me to move and go to the other company, this is what I'll need. Now, when you jump from company to company, you should be targeting at least a 20% pay bump, right? I thought you meant you're just negotiating with your existing boss for a pay raise. But yeah, of course. I mean, if you're crushing it at your job right now and you're making 120, and then you're interviewing it at another place where the salary range is, 80 to 140, say, and they offered you the position, I'm already making 120, pal. I'm not going to move and go to your company unless you make it lucrative. Totally, obviously, that's obvious. Yeah, absolutely. Negotiate that for sure. Hey, Daniel G, good to see you from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Good to see you. Michael says the doorman is working remote at the Plaza Hotel and Residences. Well, you know what? That may actually be a little bit of a funny joke, but it's actually a reality. A lot of new condos that are going up in the city to save on costs, right, and to keep monthly overhead low, they're opting for virtual doormans. So you're seeing that a lot now in the city, because there's big demand for low monthlies. So the way it works in the city, and really all over, right? Let's say if you buy an apartment in a really, really nice, schwanky condominium, you have to pay your monthly property taxes, and then you also have to pay your monthly common charges. So the more amenities the building has, let's say if it has an indoor swimming pool, let's say if it has, a 24/7, 365 doorman and concierge and a gym and all the works, right? Well, then your monthly maintenance is going to be really, really high. like extremely high. But what some developers are doing now is installing virtual doormen, and that'll allow them to save money on, you know, bartering and brokering deals with the unions and having doormen go in there. And instead of, you know, some $2 million apartments in the city have like $800 a month common charges, which is like really low. That's like super cheap. You know, a $2.5 million apartment with $800 a month common charges, that's really, really low. But oftentimes you'll find that in new development, really no amenities and virtual doormen. Some of the main buildings in the city, like the Trump International Hotel, I mean, if you just go on Street Easy right now and you look at, you know, one of the resales in the Trump International Hotel and Tower, I wouldn't be surprised to see common charges in the $4,000 a month, $3,500 a month for the common charges. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, let's check out well, I should say one of my favorite buildings, but first, this is the New York Athletic Club. It's actually a really nice night out in the city. Very cool. Oh guys, what do we got going on here? This looks like, whoa, what is this? This looks like a massive rollerblading group. You never know what you're gonna run into in New York. This is pretty cool. And Amol. Since I saw some showing or someone showing the thinnest building. That is the Steinway Tower. Hey Niles, just seeing the digital advertising industry companies are adding more roles and responsibilities onto positions so they don't have to hire more people. Yeah, that's another thing that they'll do too, right? So they'll load other people with work, right? So if you have, if you're working at a startup, instead of spending the extra $100,000 to hire somebody else, well, guess what? They'll just load you up with work and squeeze more juice out of you. That's a really good comment. A lot of people do that. Hey, Carl Roth, Tom, I just wanted to thank you for your videos. Thank you so much. Carl Roth from Canada. I appreciate you watching as we are walking Central Park South tonight. Hey, Paul says, Tom, what are your thoughts on the police robot the NYPD is testing in the subway? Oh, look at this. Wow. There must be like hundreds of roller skaters. This is really cool. That's so cool. I think these guys are gonna go all the way down to Times Square. Did anybody see the guy on the roller skates with the guitar? He was doing some extreme multitasking there. Jamming away on his guitar. That's so sick. Well, this is Central Park Tower, which looks amazing amongst the clouds. It's a really, really good shot. Hey, Jay Grant is here. What's up, Rockstar? Hang with Mark, Mom. Good to see you. Well, I have a question for everybody in the chat. Like, so what we just talked about, right? That whole conversation about negotiating the salary, you know, the job market maybe softening a little bit. I mean, what are you seeing at your work, right? I'm sure many of you are employed and, you know, have jobs and work in the economy. Are you starting to see, you know, a change in attitude from your boss? Are you starting to see added responsibilities? Are you starting to see a more strict and stringent attendance policy? You know, were you working remote 4 days a week or 5 days a week, and now it's only 2 days a week? Sort of, what are you guys seeing? So this is the Alwyn Court. This is one of my favorite buildings in the city. This thing is gorgeous. Justin S. What do you think of the transparent salary requirement in New York? I've seen that. Like, if you go on LinkedIn or what's the other one? Glassdoor is another one. Indeed. It'll give you like a range of what, you know, the salary will be. But even that isn't necessarily accurate, though, because it could be a mix, particularly if you're a salesperson. Usually you're it's called an OTE. You have an OTE, which is called on target earnings, which is a mix between your basic salary, right? Your commission, and then your equity or your RSUs, which stands for restricted stock units, depending on if you work at a publicly traded company or the like. So it still varies in a big way. Wow, Hang with Mark Moms is my son 3 years ago witnessed toxic workplace to get rid of people. They need to teach young adults that this is normal for corporate companies. It's not them that did anything wrong. Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's called managing you out of the business. It's that's corporate America. And, you know, they will do anything they can not to pay you a package or a severance. So what they do instead is they manage you out of the business. This is Central Park Tower and 220 Central Park South. Right in front of us. Hey, Call Raw, it's Tom. In my profession of computer programming, those that work from home are working 2 to 3 jobs at the same time for 2 to 3 companies. They're making 3 times the money and are not telling them. I don't have a few friends. I have one friend that technically has 2 software engineering jobs, which is crazy. Now, I don't think that's super commonplace, but some people definitely do that. Now, if you're a really good software engineer, what I think would be a good idea is just sort of make your own consulting company, right? And bill these big companies by the hour. I think that could be feasible, right? You'll have flexible hours. You could bill by the hour or bill by the project. And this way, the company doesn't have to pay you benefits. So it'd sort of be more lucrative for them too. Hey, Niles, what's up? This is Tom. Another thing noticing is companies are laying off a ton of talent acquisition recruiters, meaning companies don't plan to hire as much in the foreseeable future. Niles, that's a really good catch there. That is a really good catch, and that's what happens. So talent acquisition and recruiters are usually the first to go in a major economic downturn. And I'm sure many of you have a LinkedIn account, right? I remember COVID very vividly, and my feed was filled with people unfortunately getting laid off, and almost 90% of them were talent acquisition and in recruiting, like corporate recruiting. So that is definitely a very good catch there. So if you start to notice at your company, hey, the recruiter got laid off, or even people in HR, right? HR is usually kind of the first to go as well. The closer you are to the revenue, right? The closer you are to generating revenue for the business or for the company, usually you will be safe assuming, right, that you produce and that you perform well. But that's a really good catch, right? I've been noticing that a lot too. I've been getting some notifications of people that I know or I know of that are in my network that are unfortunately getting laid off. So that could be a little bit of we could use that as a proxy for what's to come, right? Companies are probably not planning. Oops, sorry about that. Planning on hiring as many people. Carl Ross is telling most of my clients that I use to work for treat me so much better now. Very nice. Oh, is that really what you do? Very cool. Daniel G, I didn't know that. Very, very cool. All right, let me try to catch up on some more. TB says that's why you always need to learn how to create wealth. Some jobs will pay your bills. Yeah, I mean, it's just, this is just a normal, markets cycle and environment, I should say. So, for sure. Hey, David says, hey, Tom, just in from the sunset. Now for some NYC. I love it. Good to see you, David. From the beautiful California, sunny California. We are here at Columbus Circle. We are now overlooking the beautiful Deutsche Bank Towers. Now, I actually went to dinner tonight here at the Deutsche Bank Towers with a client at the Momofuku Noodle Bar, which is one of my favorite places in the city. Momofuku, really good. And it's pretty affordable too. It's actually not too bad. But yeah, I think this is a good conversation, right? These are all things to be aware of. Now, it's not to freak anybody out, but these are just normal things to be aware of, right? And as you get experience, maybe we have some younger viewers here, working in corporate America, you'll start to notice these things, right? You'll start to sort of notice these different patterns and these different cycles and these different characteristics. Hey, Michael says, based on other YouTube channels, my impression is that people are on pins and needles looking for signs that their corporation is going to return to the workplace. Well, I mean, it depends on what job you're in, right? I would say here in the city, if you work in investment banking or consulting, I mean, everybody's pretty much back. I mean, they've been back for years now. Midtown Manhattan's pretty busy in terms of in the finance space, particularly if your front office, things like that. I think there was a major sort of push that at JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs, all managing directors are to be in the office 5 days a week. Now, why do you think they do that, right? So here's another little thing to notice, right? If a big investment bank sets the policy where you could technically have a hybrid working environment, but all of the managing directors have to be in 5 days a week, well, read between the lines. If a senior investment banker, a managing director that's been doing this for 20 years has to be in the office 5 days a week, you think he or she is going to allow the 20-year-old investment banking analyst to work from home while he or she is coming into the office 5 days a week? No shot. No shot. So they do it for a reason. They're like, hey, managing directors in the office, and then everybody else use discretion. If your analyst uses discretion when the MD is in the office and you're a first-year investment banking analyst and you're working remote 5 days a week, you're probably not going to be employed next year. So they sort of do that, right? But look, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think life's all about sitting home and lounging around working remote. In my opinion, right, and I may be wrong, I don't think I really would have excelled in my career if I wasn't in the office working ridiculous hours when I was younger, because you learn things, right? I got around the smartest and the best salesmen and women at my company. And with this whole remote working thing, if all of the top talent is working remote, well, how are the younger people at the company going to learn? And who are they going to learn from? So if you're an account executive, or you're an investment banking analyst, or if you are a first-year consultant, right, at EY, Deloitte, or KPMG, and all of your seniors are working remote, how are you going to learn, right? Who are you going to learn from? Like, who's going to mentor you? So I think it's very difficult. I don't know. It's sort of my 2 cents. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Agree, disagree? Graf says construction never stopped. Office staff are being called back and should be. Time to get back to work and stop wasting company money. I don't think that's it's a wrong comment. I kind of agree with that. Now, if you can be productive and, you know, churn out your work as normal, remote, then I'd say that's fine. That's great. But I think for younger people, you know, if you're in your early 20s, I think it's really kind of hard to climb and excel in your career if you're just sitting at home. I don't know. Maybe some people can. I don't think I could. I couldn't. I'll speak for myself. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I would definitely not have done well if it was 100% remote when I was coming up at the time. Okay, this is now the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, which sits right here at the Time Warner Center. Hawaii's management goes back into the office for training, and it takes a while for the new employees to get to work remotely. Yeah, so it's like they kind of have to earn the privilege, I guess. I understand that. Schnook wins. His federal workers in Canada had work at home legislated into their recent contract. Wow, not in favor of it? Concerned about information confidentiality in those houses. That is something interesting to think about. I never really thought about it like that. Yeah, I mean, if you have corporate infrastructure spread all over the place, I mean, that's definitely something to be concerned of, right? Or concerned about. You know, the more, they're called endpoints, right? Because I used to sell some cybersecurity software back in the day. And it's called endpoints, right? So the more phones you have out there, the more laptops, tablets, you know, any mobile device or even a desktop, they're all called endpoints. And the reason why you've had this massive explosion in cyber attacks and Emotet is because a lot of corporate infrastructure and company infrastructure is spread all over the place. Let's go back inside. It's so windy here. You know, is spread all over the place. So if you have phones laying around, if you have laptops laying around, you lose them on the subway, you know, you misplace things, it gets into the wrong hands, it's a problem. And that's why many companies like CrowdStrike, Zscaler, they sell endpoint security software, right? So little bit of a detour here. I think this is such an interesting shot of Billionaires Row. Hey, Joe Driver, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. But you know what, everybody? I'm getting some pings on my other phone, and I may have to attend to this real quick. I'm being pulled into an emergency conference call, so I need to get this, unfortunately. All right, we're at the hour mark. I gotta get this. I gotta jump on this call. It's a emergency conference call here, but I appreciate everybody joining tonight. We're gonna have to cut the stream short about an hour. We will be back tomorrow, though. If you want to join us tomorrow on Walks on Wall Street, feel free to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I gotta run, though. We're getting I gotta take care of this, unfortunately. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining. Take care.